Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I met my wife, Rona, when we were in college together. I made the obvious, terrible assumption that the fact that she was in post-secondary education meant she had a modicum of common sense. We started dating our senior year, and after job hunting, settled on moving back to her hometown after graduating. We found an apartment and lived together for 2 years before getting married. All good so far. At our wedding, I met an old friend of hers, Anna. She offered to read my palm since she was part gypsy. Weird. I'm in construction, and I know a few people from that group, and they call themselves Roma. Whatever. Anna only comes to town every once in a while. She lives in New York City, so she doesn't have time to visit since she has an exciting life there. She makes costumes for plays and cosplayers, so we see her maybe 4 times over the next 2 years. Last time she came was Labor Day last year, and that's when it got weird. All of a sudden, Rona starts acting oddly. She starts checking in on me at work, coming by when I'm working late, asking to use my phone because hers is almost out of power, that sort of thing. She finally comes out and accuses me of having an affair. I thought she was joking, so I laugh and say that I'm not. This sets her off like a Roman candle, because Anna told her I would laugh it off when Rona came for the truth. I laughed because it was ridiculous. I barely had time for a relationship with my wife and my job. I'm home all weekend long. When I go golfing, her brother is almost always either in my foursome or at the club. And most important of all, I love my wife. I wouldn't do anything to harm her. And yet she takes the word of Anna, the psychic seamstress, over mine. She asks me to leave our apartment. I say no because I have nowhere else to go. So she leaves and moves back with her parents. They think she's nuts too. I spent the next few months working and trying to convince her that I'm not cheating and that I want her to come home. I don't get invited to Thanksgiving because it would be awkward. I didn't even stick around for Christmas. I went home to see my family. They've been following all this stupidity without commenting until then. At Christmas, they had an intervention. They said my wife was having a break from reality and that she wasn't coming out of it. My dad told me to give my head a shake, which he only does when I'm being monumentally stupid. When I got back, I went to a lawyer and started my divorce. That was in January. Finally, at the beginning of April, Rona calls me to talk. I say we should talk through lawyers. She starts to cry, and I agree to meet her in public if she will allow me to record our conversation so I can give a copy to my lawyer. She eventually agreed. Turns out, her and her parents hired a private detective to find my affair. 6 months, and a huge bill later, zero evidence of an affair. She finally believes me and wants to come home. I tell her that our lease is up in July, and I already found a job in Denver near my family. She says she would come with me. I respectfully declined. I told her we just weren't right for each other. The truth is, I do not want to have my offspring share DNA with this dingbat. Anyway, I am moving ahead with my divorce. I'm gutted that she took her friend's psychic vibrator over mine. Her family has approached me several times. The last time her dad offered to front us a 25% down payment on a house if I agree to go to marriage counseling instead of just leaving. I politely declined. I cannot be bought. Rona is now desperate, but I see no way of ever trusting her again. She's young enough she can marry again and wreck some other guy's life. Am I the a-hole here? Well, at least OP didn't have kids with his wife, so nothing attaches him to her and he will be able to not see her again. It's crazy of her friend to throw out accusations like that. If she wanted to show off her psychic ability, she could have made up any other number of things that wouldn't potentially ruin a person's life. And OP's wife didn't believe OP's word, and instead believed bought psychics and later investigators. The marriage is already dead. Not the a-hole. Once she took the word of a psychic over you, it was over. And the fact that she then convinced her parents to hire a private investigator to get info on your infidelities is just the icing on the top. And only the PI coming up empty brought about the realization that you were telling the truth. What else will she blindly believe when her psychic friend has another vision? Run, don't walk. Even her own parents want her out of their lives. Her dad spent a bunch of money on a private investigator, not to help his daughter, but to get her out of his home and to get that crazy out of his life. And now he's willing to literally give you money to take her back. Really think about that. It'll help you sleep at night if you ever second guess your decision to run. Not the a-hole here. I once worked with an older male colleague. He was 50-ish. I was 28 and recently married. This man would hustle out of work at exactly 4 p.m. every day and would not stay a second later, no matter the circumstances. Turns out that his wife had been accusing him of affairs his whole marriage, and if he was 5 minutes late getting home, she would absolutely blow, making life hell, more hellish, for him for weeks afterward. I learned that this behavior in his wife started innocently in the early years of their marriage and had ramped up to level 10 crazy over the years. By that time, they had kids, a mortgage, and it was impossible for him financially to leave. She gave you a gift, take it. My ex and I share custody of our 13-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter. We divorced 9 years ago. My ex is now happily remarried, going on 3 years now. We're okay with each other. Mostly civil, but we're not close and don't see eye to eye on a lot of things post-divorce. This is a conflict that stems from a couple of different things, but I really want to know what others think. So I picked my kids up from my ex's parents' house on Sunday. Ex and his wife, plus the kids, all of X's family, and many of his wife's family members were there. X called me back to the yard to talk, and he told me he had told the kids they were grounded for a week with no phone or internet, and for another week they would be doing acts of kindness for his wife. He punished them because during this family gathering, they decided to do a game where the moms and their kids teamed up. The kids continued sitting, and when asked why, they said because their mom, meaning me, wasn't there. They were told they would be teaming up with their other mom, and my kids asked why. X's wife isn't their mom. X told them she acts as their mom at their house, and my kids said she's not their mom and wouldn't ever be their real mom though. My son said they'd need to call me to participate in a mom and kid game. Everyone was furious they would speak about their stepmom that way, and for using the term real mom. My ex told them to apologize, and neither would. My son told his dad he shouldn't have to apologize for telling the truth. I arrived about an hour later, and everyone was still angry about what happened. My ex also told me that his wife started to cry, and both kids rolled their eyes. He told me I need to take care of grounding them for a week, so that the next time the kids are with him, they can get to the acts of kindness for his wife. I told him I don't see what they did as a punishable offense. He told me I was ignoring the fact it should have been clear who they were supposed to team up with. I told him they weren't wrong that his wife isn't their mom though. He told me it shouldn't matter, and they should be more willing to team up with his wife. I asked why they called it mom and kid instead of parent and kid, but I was clear I would not ground them for it. X was furious. The families kept watching, and I know they could hear from the glares I was getting as I left with the kids. X has texted me several times through the week, saying I was wrong, and I made his wife feel like crap in front of their families. Am I the a-hole? OP's husband can't force their children to view his wife as a mother figure. Punishing children for the way they feel is wrong. Not all families blend. How his wife feels about it is not OP's or the children's problem to solve. OP's ex brought this matter up in front of everyone, not OP. If his wife is embarrassed or hurt, he should have been more discreet. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole, and you should tell your ex that his priority should be his kids. A grown-up woman who was in their lives for just 3 years shouldn't start crying and playing victim because her stepchildren, who she sees on the weekends, don't think of her as a mother. Yes, she can address that this hurts, and if there is a possibility for them to see that it bothers her, but not start crying and demanding a punishment for this kind of behavior. Maybe talk to your ex to see if it is possible that the children will stay with you for the next week, while he and his wife get to deal with this situation and learn to work with this, that the children don't see her as a parent, so that they don't have to guilt trip and punish children for their feelings. Not the a-hole. You don't see what they did as a grounding offense. You aren't obligated to uphold your ex's punishment. It's not like they were caught stealing. Your ex cannot force your kids to see his wife as their mother, and trying will only force them further from what he wants them to be. And his wife needs to be more of an adult and not cry to manipulate them. What your ex needs to ask himself is not how to force his kids to see his wife as a mother figure, but why they don't. Then, maybe he can find a way to fix it. In any case, he needs to accept that the kids are not obligated to see her as a mother no matter what. In any case, you are not obligated to uphold a punishment because your kids refuse to replace you in their lives. Good. He should feel like crap. What he and his whole family did to those kids was crap. Next time, don't punish the kids for telling the truth, because they will learn not to as they grow. Also, ensure they know that just because something is true, might not always be best to voice it. In this instance, however, they were pushed into answering. They get a pass, not the a-hole. My sister, 34 female, was in an aggressive relationship with her ex. Before that, she had another relationship with a guy who left when she got pregnant. She currently doesn't get child support. She has 3 children, and after she left, she didn't have anywhere to stay. My mom was also a single mom and doesn't have money to spare, but would have taken her in. My sister didn't want to go back to our hometown and begged us to take her in. We agreed to take her in for 6 months while she gets on her feet. She lived in our basement, which had its own bathroom and 2 bedrooms. I was really close with her growing up, but even I have to say she has damaged my marriage with my wife. Initially, my wife was understanding, but my sister kept saying she couldn't find work. My wife helped her with resumes and interview prep, but my sister didn't seem motivated to apply for jobs. She had a job at a cafe. My wife did all the legwork in applying for her, and the owner was desperate, so they hired her without any experience. She worked there for 2 months and then stopped showing up, saying she was sick of the work. She would forget to pick up the 2 eldest children from school, and my wife had to do it several times a week. This is when she wasn't working, so she had the time. She also would leave in the evenings and not tell my wife. One of the kids fell in the tub and was generally okay, except for a bruise, but she blamed my wife, even though no one knew she was out of the house. She was yelling at my wife that she should have been watching her kids. My wife told me if I let her stay past the 6 months, she would leave. Then my sister said she was pregnant and asked to stay until the baby came. We were shocked and demanded to know why she's having another child when she was essentially homeless. She didn't seem to think it was a big deal and said she had been seeing a guy on Facebook and they met for dates regularly. I told her she needs to leave as this is the end of our 6-month agreement. She was shocked and didn't agree because she's having a baby and accused my wife of poisoning me against her. I told her it was because of her refusing to work and being irresponsible with her kids, and getting pregnant was the final straw. She is moving out to be with this new guy who agreed to take her in. The 2 older kids are going with our mom, as he won't allow them to stay. I'm afraid he will be aggressive like her ex, and I feel guilty her family is being torn apart. But she lived rent-free with us for 6 months and refused to help herself. Even if she had not gotten pregnant, OP is in the right for asking her to leave at the 6 months per the agreement. She was already putting all of her responsibilities on OP. OP would also very likely be raising the new baby for her as well. She was taking advantage of OP's kindness massively and then made another terrible decision. Not the a-hole, and your sister is a piece of crap. Anyone who puts D before their own children isn't a good parent. Good thing those kids aren't going with her. I'm sorry, but this really shouldn't be your issue. She knew what she was doing and thought you guys would just take care of her like last time. Just because they are family doesn't mean you have to enable her behavior. She decided to have these kids, so she needs to be an adult and take care of them. Not the a-hole. Stop taking on other people's problems. Not the a-hole. You helped her out when she needed it, and she took advantage of you guys. She had no intention of finding a job, much less keeping it. Seems she likes to skate through life by depending on everyone else to do everything for her. She sounds very lazy and entitled, not to mention stupid, as she got pregnant again. I, 26 female, just gave birth to my son 2 months ago. My husband Devin, 34 male, and I have a prenup that dictates that I am to receive a gift upon the birth of a child that is biologically ours, called a bump gift. It may seem a bit silly, but a lot of his work friends also have this clause because she does all the hard work building the baby. A whole 9, almost 10 months. That is worthy of a gift. To keep the legitimacy of the clause, it requires a paternity test before it takes effect. My husband works in stock trading and makes very good money, so I can afford to stay at home, though I do work remotely as a marketing and data analyst. Because of the prenup, as soon as our son was born, Devin and I went for a paternity test. It was positive as I never cheated and never would. Devin bought me a 2-year subscription for my favorite book subscription boxes. I usually only get 3-month subscriptions because of the cost, but was so happy he chose this gift. Though both of us agree the test was purely a formality, as we trust each other. A few nights ago, we were in my in-laws' house for dinner. Devin's dad also works in stock trading, and they talk about work over dinner, whereas his mom and I are both avid readers, so we talk about recent books. His sister Erica, 30 female, and her husband, 36 male, were there, even though it is usually just Devin, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, and I. And they just had a baby 3 months ago, though Erica has a history of infidelity, and her husband has struggled with accepting paternity. I mentioned how cute her daughter was, and told her how glad I was that we all had babies so close in age. Her husband snapped and mentioned that he should get a paternity test, because he was sure the baby was Erica's, but unsure if the baby was his. Erica said that nobody in their right mind would do a paternity test, and asked me if I agreed. I said that Devin and I did a paternity test 2 days ago after our son was born, and that I wasn't bothered because I knew that our son was his. She freaked out on me for acting like it wasn't a big deal, and made dinner really awkward. I feel like a total a-hole because I know we got paternity tests for vastly different reasons. But I also feel like she asked me the question, and I answered honestly. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They asked, and you were honest. In all honesty, her reaction makes me think the baby unfortunately isn't his. Like you say, if you know the kid is his, what's the big deal? I personally think paternity tests should just be mandatory at birth. Avoid so many stupid fights from happening around the world. Not the a-hole. Screw that stuff. She pulled you into her argument and expected you to tell her what she wanted to hear instead of the truth. It's actually hilarious that you responded the way you did, in my opinion. And she deserved to get knocked down a peg by trying to involve you in her crap. Also, her husband probably ain't the baby daddy. Just saying. Not the a-hole, but many couples see paternity tests as a deal breaker. The asking partner is basically accusing the other, mother, of infidelity. For me personally, if my husband had asked for one, I would have said sure, no problem. I think I even asked him at one point if he wanted to. He burst out laughing and said no way would he waste money like that. Every couple is different, and that's okay.